Using God as a good luck charm is never a good idea. That's what we're going to find out today as we continue our study in the book of 1 Samuel. We're going to be studying chapters 4 through 7 today. We're going to start with the last verse of chapter 3, I think.
Yeah.
But or the last verse and a half of chapter 3. I don't
Last
know.
half
Anyway.
verse. Yeah.
But before we do that, you'll understand our confusion about that in just a second. But I wanted to say hello to Kevin, get reacquainted, and just catch up a little bit. You've now got 2 college grads.
Yes, that is correct. 2 college grads. That all went
awesome
successfully for us when we were out there in Florida for the kids' graduation a couple weeks ago. Kelson is now back here at home with us till he gets married in December. And Maddie is, as Melissa says, living her best beach life in Florida.
Her best beach life. Is she lifeguarding again this summer?
Yeah, she is. She is going to lifeguard presently. I think she starts next week for Busch Gardens Water Park.
Yeah, cool.
Out there, at least for the summer session, and then see where it goes after that. So, yeah, so that's what they're doing.
Awesome. Is she going to? What was her degree in?
Her degree's in kinesiology.
Kinesiology, right? So physical therapy type stuff, or
yeah, and she had done some intern stuff as a PT tech and things, and liked the work just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Florida is sort of like Arizona in that it's a somewhat seasonal state, right? You get the swell of people in the winter months, and who's a lot of the people that want physical therapy services? Old people, right? So, trying to grab a job right now is a little challenging in that field. And she's like, and then starting out as a tech, they're going to pay me more as a lifeguard than I would starting out as a tech there.
Okay.
So she's going to do that for a while and see how she likes it and how it goes, and we'll see what happens from there.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Well, my nephew Aiden just got married this last weekend, so I was out in the Dallas area and got to help a lot. My sister and brother-in-law hosted at their own house, their own property, and so there was a lot of work to do, and so they weren't like hiring it out. It wasn't at a place where they were going to clean it. We had to do everything, right? So it was a semi-working vacation, I guess.
Yes, right.
But no, I was happy to do that. Super excited for Aiden and his new wife, Ray Ann, and super excited for them. They're as they're embarking their new journey together, which is great.
Yeah, and did you have a daughter who completed some level of coursework, community college stuff for them? Yeah, I thought I saw that posted there.
I thought I'd mentioned that previously, but yeah, no, Kimberlyn graduated with her AA.
Yeah.
And she got to walk that ceremony on Friday as I left for Dallas. We had so many things going on, and Noah had his final track meet of the season as well on Saturday. So yeah, we were just all over the place.
It's that season.
Yeah, very, very, very exciting. Good stuff. All good stuff happening too fast.
Yep.
All right. So 1 Samuel, we started that a little bit ago, and we got through the first 3 chapters. And chapter 3 ends with this verse. It says, "And the Lord appeared again at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord." And for whatever reason, the chapter break people decided that was the end of the chapter. However, the very first verse of chapter 4, the first sentence of which says, "The word of Samuel came to all Israel." And there's a period, and then an obvious context break.
Now, right.
Yeah. Now Israel went out to battle against the Philistines. And so why the word of Samuel came to all Israel wasn't
the end of chapter 3.
The end of chapter 3, we don't know, but it's our very strong opinion that it really should
the word of the Lord came to Samuel, and then Samuel relayed that word to all of Israel. It seems like what that attention
makes sense,
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
As how the writer would have intended that to be understood. So yeah, so we're going to pick up right after that sentence, picking it up as the events unfold for us in this battle. So just as a recap, if you recall, we finished the book of Judges. We talked about Eli, the priest that raised Samuel. Samuel's mother had promised to devote him to God, and she did that after weaning him, left him into the care of Eli at the temple, or and in service of the priest in priestliness. And Samuel has been communicating with God. God came to Samuel and said, "Hey, you're going to be a good worker for me." And then we have him kind of growing in stature with his relationship with the Lord and with the people, obviously. And
Yeah.
so then we have this little interlude of these events that take place between kind of the transition between Eli and Samuel becoming the main priest characters.
Yeah, and that's going to be right. Remember, we saw twice already that God has spoken to Eli, letting him know what's going to happen because he's not restrained his sons, and his sons have been bad at their priestly jobs and have perverted the worship. A prophet came to him and told him that. Then Samuel gets the same message again and relays it to him. And so this whole section, this chapter, is going to be the fulfillment of that prophecy, effectively against Eli and his house at the hand of the Philistines here. And so this does really serve as the transition from Eli to Samuel. It's sort of ending off Eli's reign is not the right word, but tenure as the judge in Israel.
Absolutely. Sorry, I got a phone call and had to respond via text really quick. So sorry about that. But yeah, so as we transition here into this chapter 4, we'll just get right into it. So it says that Israel went out to battle against the Philistines. We don't have a lot of context other than the fact that the Philistines and the Israelites were at odds on a regular basis at this point, Philistines being the aggressors more often than not. But here we see that Israelite went out to battle against them. They encamped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped at Aphek. So they drew up on line, and the Philistines just basically just demolished the Israelites that day, killing 4,000. And of course, the people rose up and said, "Why did God abandon us, and why did God defeat us today before the Philistines?" They just kind of assumed that we got God on our side, and everything's going to be fine. Whatever we do is going to be blessed by Him.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know
so they're
why they.
asking a good question there, right? Like, again, if you kind of think of this book as the next part of Judges, it's the same story, right? Bad things happen. The people cry out to God because, they neglected him or rejected him, and then he raises up a judge for them. And so in that same cycle, we're fighting against the Philistines. And, when we look down further in verse 9, right, the Philistines say, lest you become slaves to the Hebrews as they have been to you. So it's been this period of oppression of the Philistines over Israel. And so they're asking, why, Lord? They're calling out to him, which is perfect. It's the right answer. It's the right response, right? Like, what have we done? Why have we been defeated? God, why have they defeated us this day? It seems like the right thing to be doing. The problem is they don't wait for an answer, right?
Right.
No one asks God. They just cry out and don't wait for his answer.
They immediately go into, we're going to solve it ourselves.
Yeah.
And so their crazy cool idea is, so the people sent to Shiloh and brought from there the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of Hosts.
Yeah, and they think, right, they said it may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies. So they believe it's going to do that. Now, I don't think this is just out of the blue. They're thinking back to, stories of like Jericho. Hey, we'll bring the ark and it will be the thing which delivers us, right? Like that's what they've got to be thinking about, right? Is these stories of deliverance where the ark went into battle with them. I mean, we'll even see this later in the king period, right? So, they come up with this idea. Again, I think the challenge here is no one asked, right? They didn't ask God, should we bring up the ark? They didn't go and consult anybody. It's just, let's go do this. And it's a weird thing to do anyway, because the ark is always, unless God is telling you otherwise what to do with it, it is in the Holy of Holies. It is not to be seen. Only the high priest sees it, right? When the tabernacle would move, they would cover it, right? And take it places, as per the Lord's prescription. And here it's just like, I know, let's just go get it. Like, let's just roll it out. and it'll somehow magically save us. And so they go and they get it. And, whoever is authoring here, First Samuel, when it says this, they sent to Shiloh and brought the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of Hosts, who is enthroned on the cherubim. And the two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the Ark of the Covenant of God. So, I mean, if you're really paying close attention, you can see how this is going to go, right? Like, okay, wait a minute. You went and you got the Ark without sort of approval, perhaps. And the people carrying it are the two priests that God is really not happy with because of the way they're treating the sacrifices and sleeping with the women at the tabernacle and all of these kinds of things, right? And these are the guys that are carrying the ark, as near as we can sort of tell, right? Or at least the ones who are there overseeing this whole thing. It's like, yeah, this is not going to end well.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, I guess how often do we do the same thing? We just kind of assume we have a sense of religiosity. Maybe, is that a good word? We see some people wearing like a crucifix. They have their Bible. It's called the Holy Bible, and it's a symbol of some sort of a connection with the divine, with God, the Creator. And sometimes do we just rely on these symbols without having a real relationship with God Himself? And I think that's really what's lacking here.
Yeah. I mean, what should have been the appropriate response, right? What we've seen before is that people cried out to the Lord in their distress, right? They're crying out to them, they're repenting, they're doing these kinds of actions. And here it's just, let's just go get the magic box, right? And that will be enough. We won't have to reckon with the fact that we have despised, because that's what they told us, right? The people despised the offerings because of what Hophni and Phinehas were doing. So we've done these things, and yet we're now not going to sort of repent of that or fix that problem. We'll just bring out the trappings. And I mean, certainly this is happened over and over again in the history of the people, right? And it's happened throughout history as well, right? That we just do whatever we want to do. We'll slap God's name on it, and somehow that makes it right or righteous, or we trust that that's going to be the fix, right, for whatever ails us there.
Yeah, for sure. And fast forward, so this really is the beginning of a spiritual revival.
It's going to be,
right, for God's people, which is kind of good. But as is often the case, we have to go through these trials sometimes, and obviously in the story of the judges, they've had to kind of hit rock bottom sometimes before they have a turn of heart and really are seeking with truth and in sincerity. So the Philistines, they're basically saying, hey, we know of this God and we don't want to mess with him. But they basically said, you know what? We just got to toughen up and fight like men.
Yeah.
And so they fought. The Philistines fought. And they defeated Israel again, like big time.
Yeah, right. Like 8 times over, right? So 4,000 one time, basically, 7.5 times, 30,000 the next year, right? And so, it is a huge, overwhelming defeat.
Yeah, to the point where the ark itself is captured.
Taken. Yeah, and so you sort of read what's going on there, and it almost feels like you can see what's happening. That Hophni and Phinehas are carrying the ark, perhaps, or they're out there with it. They just go up and they just kill them, right? They slaughter them and take the ark because they're just priests and have weapons and have whatever. They're just relying on the box, right? And so they kill them and they find out, wait, there's no God here. This is just a box. And so they pick it up and they take it home. Like it's a complete and utter defeat.
Yeah.
Not only of the people, but in the minds of the Philistines, of the gods of Israel. It's just, wait, this was the God who did all these great things to the Egyptians, and they're like, whatever, right? They totally disrespect him, and they'll get their comeuppance here. But it's a defeat on a national scale of military, of your religion, of everything they're about. So it is an utter defeat here.
Yep. And along with it, we have the demise of Eli and a lot of his family.
Yeah.
So in this battle, Eli's 2 sons were both killed because they were the ones that kind of like it was probably their idea. Let's just bring the ark out,
Yeah, either they do it or they come and say, "Hey, bring this up," and they're like, "Okay." I'm always curious if they're like, "Yeah, let's do that," or they've been just disregarding God and everything's about up to this point, or if they're just out there being like, "Well, I hope this works," right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't believe any of this stuff. I'm just abusing my position, so
yep,
we'll see.
yeah, exactly. So Eli at this point is 98 years old. He's an old man, and big uproar was happening. So
Yeah,
a soldier, a man of Benjamin, rushes back as a messenger because he was
yeah,
there at the battle, and he informs Eli of what happened, both that his sons were killed and that the Ark of the Covenant was taken. And Eli, in his shock, topples backwards
yeah,
and breaks his neck and also dies.
yeah.
Simultaneously, one of his sons, Phinehas's wife was pregnant and about to give birth, and she hears that her husband is dead, and that causes her to go into labor, and she's dying from the labor as
Yeah,
well, but does give birth to this baby boy. She names him Ichabod, which is interesting. So we have, like Grimm's Tales, Ichabod
yeah,
Crane, right? The headless horseman. That's the most famous Ichabod that I can think of. I don't know if he's
yeah, yeah.
famous or not, but at least popularized. So we have Ichabod being born, and where does it say Ichabod's name? What does that mean there?
The glory of
The
the Lord is
glory of
departed.
the glory of God has departed, referring to both the ark and her husband and all that kind of stuff. So lots of tragedy for Eli's family, and then that basically ends chapter 4 for
Yeah.
us, right? So we get into chapter 5. So
Well,
then it transitions into the Philistines.
before you roll there, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's something interesting, I think, that happens in 4 that we sometimes miss because this is going to come back later, right? So, the guy runs to Shiloh and tells him about it, and that's sort of all you get here. Oh, and Eli dies, and this woman gives birth, and and she dies, and you think, well, that's sort of it, right? But that doesn't seem to be accurate because apparently what happens is the Philistines march from there to Shiloh and burn the place to the ground, which you don't get here. But if you go and you read in Jeremiah, Jeremiah will be facing a similar problem when he's prophesying against the people at that time. And their mindset is God's never going to take over Jerusalem because this is where his temple is, right? They have the same thinking problem that these people did, right?
Mhm.
Like the magic box is here. It's fine, right? And Jeremiah, in 2 different occasions, in 2 different chapters, 7 and 26, he'll point that out. Do you think that God won't destroy his place here? Look what he did to Shiloh, right? When I moved my place from Shiloh to here. Why? Because I burned it to the ground. So one of the Psalms also seems to reference this idea when it's talking about David becoming king, that Shiloh was, did you not see what happened to Shiloh? So apparently, though we don't get it here, the Philistines, the guy runs to there, not just to pass on the word, but to be like, the Philistines are coming, the Philistines are coming. And then they march through and they destroy the place.
Wow.
That and then later Jeremiah will reference it and say, hey, didn't we learn our lesson before? We thought this was going to work for you. Don't get it twisted here. Like it's going to happen again. So
Okay. Well, that's why we have Kevin on the podcast, everybody. I've never made that connection before. So yeah, thanks for bringing that along.
Yeah.
Do you know where exactly that's referenced so that people can look it up?
Yeah, so it's in Jeremiah. I want to say it's 7, and let me double check again. I was looking at it earlier. Jeremiah, I think it's 7, and also in like 26.
Okay.
And again, you have to sort of read the chapters there, but those are both places where she's prophesying against him and saying, "Hey, don't think this is going to help you, save you," right? Kind of a thing. I'll double check, but yeah, you're going to keep reading the next part. I'll grab for you.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so as we get into chapter 5, the Philistines captured the Ark of God. They brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod, which is a pretty major city for them. And they took the Ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon and set it up beside Dagon. And when the people of Ashdod rose early the next day, behold, what had happened was Dagon, which obviously this statue of their god had fallen face downward on the ground before the ark of the Lord. So that's interesting. So they decide to wheel in the Ark of the Covenant, and they set it up next to this false god of Dagon. And God said, yeah, I don't think so. You will bow down before me because I'm the only true God, right?
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting,
It's
right?
pretty.
Because
It's actually somewhat comical.
it's humorous, in fact,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. What they do is kind of what you would do, right? Yeah, I've captured these spoils of war. I'm going to take them to the temple of my God as an offering, right? Is basically what they're doing. And in so doing, you're showing my God is better than your God, right? Kind of a thing. And so as a result of that, though, God decides to intervene and demonstrate that that is not the case, which is funny because previously the box was just a box, right? It didn't do anything. It didn't cause any sort of miracle to happen in the battle. And yet now the box is not just a box, right? And so that's a funny thing that God is doing, because it's like, look, to my own people, if you think this symbol is me, you're wrong, right? But to the foreign people who think I am nothing, I will demonstrate that I am something, right?
Yeah.
With the same object, right?
But all people are going to learn a lesson.
Yeah, you're all going to learn the lesson here, right?
All of you are going to learn the lesson.
You're all going to learn the same lesson here.
Yep.
In the end of this thing.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it is a kind of an interesting story there about their reaction that happens.
And from a Christian perspective, we're on God's side. We like to see God being exemplified and glorified, and we like to see God demonstrating his power, right? And so the people of Ashdod, we got to pick up our God and put him back
sit
up,
him back
right?
up, right? Maybe it's weird. Maybe it just fell over, earthquake, who knows, right? Just tipped over, right?
Messed up the earth or something, who knows, right?
Bumped him on the way out, right?
Yeah. So the next morning, God's like, nah, not again.
Let me make this clear.
Yeah, he basically cut off the head of Dagon and Dagon's hands.
Yeah, he falls down and breaks on the threshold, right?
Yeah. Dagon's head and hands were the threshold, and his torso was basically kneeling or laying down prostrate before the Ark of the Covenant again the next day. And so only the trunk of Dagon was left to him. And the little side note, this is why the priests of Dagon and all who enter the house of Dagon do not tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod to this day. Okay.
Yeah. It's one of those kinds of things that you get every once in a while when, the writer is pointing back towards something that happened before.
Yeah.
You ever wonder why? This is why, right? So apparently, if you're a Philistine and you or a priest of Dagon anymore, when you walk in, you step over the threshold, right? It just became a thing that they did. Yeah.
Then in verse 6 to chapter 5, we have this transition where it goes from the Dagon statue and what was happening in the temple of Ashdod. Then it said that the hand of the Lord was heavy against the people of Ashdod, and he terrified and afflicted them with tumors, both Ashdod and its territory. And when the men of Ashdod saw how things were, they said, the ark of the God of Israel must not remain with us, for his hand is hard against us and against Dagon, our God. Right, so they say, "Hey, we got to figure out what are we going to do?" Yeah. So they called all the Philistine lords and rulers and said, "What are we going to do with the ark of the God of Israel?" And they're like, "Well, come on, send it out to Gath. We can probably handle it."
Yeah,
right. So they brought the ark of God against Israel there to Gath. But after they brought it around, the hand of the Lord was against that city, causing a great panic. And he afflicted the men of the city, both young and old, so that tumors broke out on them. I don't know what that looked like. I think about like Job being afflicted with boils and just sores, ugh. But you think of tumors, like that sounds like what we think. We normally think of tumors and cancer.
Right? Yeah, like growth or something. Yeah. And it's interesting because in a little bit, right, when they decide to solve the problem, they make these things of these little golden effigies of the tumors and also of rats. And so I'm not sure, like we don't see it here, but were rats also part of this problem and plague? Like, is it
Yeah,
we
maybe.
think of like sort of Black Death kind of thing, right? The plague going around through the city, and rats are overrunning everything, and
Yeah.
they're breaking out these sort of diseased,
Yeah,
boily tumor things. Yeah.
Yeah, typhus in early, London,
Yeah.
phases of
Yeah.
London or something, typhoid, so
Yeah. So it kind
who
of
knows? Yeah.
get that feeling there.
Yep.
But I do like how this sort of goes after that, right? They decide, all right, we're going to send it to Ekron. And Ekron's like, no, right? They don't even wait for it to show up and do the thing. They're just like, get this thing out of here, right? Like Ashdod had it, and then it went over to Gath, and then Gath decides, no, we're sending it to Ekron. They're like, no, right? As soon as it came, they cried out. They've brought the Ark here to kill us. Like that. What are you trying to do?
Yeah. So they again said, hey, you got to just send this thing back.
Yeah.
Let it return to its own place. It's not going to kill us and our people. For there was a deathly panic throughout the whole city, it says. The hand of God was very heavy there. The men who did not die were struck with tumors, and the cry of the city went up to heaven.
Yeah, and we get this thing here, right? It seems like we're maybe missing some of the story when you keep looking, because then it'll say in the next thing, right, that it was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. So it's not just like, oh, it was here, and the next morning it was like this, and the next morning it was like that,
right?
And then that day it breaks out, and so they send it on its way, and the next day, no, this is drug out, right, for a period of time. It's residing in these different cities and places for a time, which again kind of makes me think that there's this like plague that's moving through. It's not just like you just wake up morning and it's just covered with it, right? It's just spreading through the city slowly. Kind of an action there. People are dying like crazy, and whoever doesn't has these boils or tumors or things on them. And later we'll sort of see they do it for like all 5 of the cities. So, Philistine, as we sort of understand, is sort of like these 5 city states. And what we're going to see there is that they'll send along 5 of these golden tumors and 5 of these golden mice. So I don't know if they moved it to the other cities as well in that 7-month window or what happened, but it afflicts all of Philistia is basically what we're supposed to understand here, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So that gets us to chapter 6.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is where they're going to actually send the ark back. So they devise this plan, like, hey, if we do it, we got to do it right.
Yeah.
At least whatever right they can figure out, right? Figure out. So they called for the priests and the diviners and said, what shall we do with the ark of the Lord? So at least they're actually appearing to try to seek some sort of a divine answer or some sort of a plan that would appease this God.
And that's what's interesting about it, right? Because Israel said, God, why have you abandoned us? And then they just come up with their own plan.
Right.
And certainly that's what the Philistines do. But in the Philistines' mind, they say, what shall we do about this problem? And they go and ask their own priests, their own diviners, and they come back and say, this is what will make this God happy, right? Like, this is the thing. Now, whether God has actually revealed to them something, or whether they're just going off of their own superstitions and things, at least the Philistines go and ask the priests and then listen to them, right? So in that sense, they are more righteous than the Israelites are, at least in their methodology of how they're attempting to solve this problem.
Yep.
Their answer wasn't just, what should we do? I don't know. Let's just do something, right? They consult their religious leaders effectively and get an answer.
And their answer seems appropriate in the form of, hey, we need a guilt. We've done something wrong. We need to make an
offering.
We need a guilt. You got to send this thing with a guilt offering.
Don't return it to Israel, to their God, empty-handed, right? You need to make restitution to that God for your guiltiness. You are being afflicted by a God, and your only solution is you need to appease that God.
Yeah.
And so they come up with whatever they think.
Yeah. And what's kind of cool is they even have enough faith that obviously their God is able to just direct this cart back to wherever he wants it to go. Right, which is kind of cool, right? So let's get into the details of what they all included and all that stuff.
Yeah. So there in verse 3, it says, if you send away the ark of the God of Israel, do not send it empty, but by all means return to him a guilt offering. Then you will be healed. It will be known to you why his hand does not turn away from you. And they said, what is this guilt offering we shall return to him? They said, 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice or rats, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines, for the same plague was on all of you and on your lords. So you must make images of your tumors and images of the mice that ravage the land and give glory to the God of Israel. Perhaps he will lighten his hand on us and gods and your land. Why would you harden your hearts as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts after he had dealt severely with them? Did they not send the people away and they departed? Now then, take and prepare a new cart and 2 milk cows on which there has never come a yoke, and yoke the cows to the cart, but take their calves home away from them, and take the ark of the Lord and place it on the cart, and put a box at its side, the figures of gold which you're returning to him as a guilt offering, and send it off and let it go its way, and watch. If it goes up on its way to its own land, to Beth Shemesh, then it is he who has done us great harm. But if not, then we shall know that it is not his hand that struck us. It happened by coincidence. And so they have this whole plan devised, right? Of let's get the guilt offering, and they've put some thought into this. There are 5 cities or 5 lords, so each of the cities should give an offering, right? What should the offering be? Well, it should be an effigy of the thing that afflicted us, right? So that it is sort of a symbol to that god. Hey, we see what you did here, right? We recognize this is the plague you brought on us. That's why we're making them in effigy. And then we're not just going to take it off. We're going to do this little test, if you will, right? We'll put it on a cart. We'll put the offering. We'll get these 2 cows, not oxen, not bulls that would normally pull, these 2 milk cows. We'll take their calves away, right? We'll take them back somewhere else, and then we'll see what the cows do. And if the cows go and follow their calves home, then, okay, that's what we'd expect, and we know it was just a coincidence. It's just weird bad luck that we got struck with a mice plague and tumors at the same time we took the ark, right? Maybe we caught it in the battle, right? But if it goes back to the land of Israel, then we'll know this was from their God, and he is happy and has accepted our offering, and we will be healed, right? The plague will pass if we do this thing. And so, they have this quite, not convoluted, but this elaborate plan, right? To sort of, 1, test if it's a god that's afflicting them or if it's just a happenstance. And 2, how to solve that problem should it be the former, right? That this will be the thing. And they've got faith and it will work. If it is a god, that means he's accepted our offering, and everything will be fine after this. So it's very interesting. And of course, that's what happens, right?
Yeah, well, and they follow it from a distance.
Yeah, for a little while they go along and see where it goes.
Is it doing what is? Where is it going?
Yeah.
And so and then we get to this cart, the cart with the Ark of the Covenant arriving in Beth Shemesh, as people were harvesting their wheat, and they looked up, and there's the ark coming over the hill with undriven milk cows.
It's a weird thing, right? You're out just reaping your field one day, and you look up, and you're like, "Is that the Ark of the Covenant? It's been gone for 7 months, right? And it's just coming back. It's a self-driving vehicle here. It's coming along, pulling the Ark of the Covenant, right? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah."
And so they rejoice, right? They're glad.
Yeah. I guess there's a self-driving car service, Wavio or Waymo, yeah.
Yeah, we have them out here in our area.
I saw one in Dallas. I'm like, I thought it looked to me like the Google mapping car.
Yeah, because it's got sensors all over it. Yeah. It's quite interesting. They just recalled them all.
Self-driving vehicle, so.
They actually just recalled them all, if you saw this, because it drove into one of them that was empty. No one was in it. But it drove into a flooded street in this Dallas flooding and stuff recently, or somewhere in that Texas area. So they recalled all of them to update and fix them, which I'm like, well, good on you at least for not being like, it's fine. We'll just roll with it.
All right. So the cart came into the field of Joshua at Beth Shemesh and stopped there.
Yeah.
Okay. A great stone was there, and they split up the wood of the cart, offered the cows as a burnt offerings to the Lord, and the Levites took down the ark of the Lord and the box that was beside it, in which were the golden figures, and set them upon the great stone. And the men of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrifices on that day to the Lord. And when the 5 lords of the Philistines saw it, they returned that day to Ekron. And so you can see they were obviously still keeping their eyes on the cart.
Yep.
They said, okay, it arrived. The Israelites have it, and they're doing their thing. Let's see here. Yeah, so they were the golden tumors. The Philistines returned their guilt offering. One for Ashdod, Gaza, Eshkelon, Gath, and Ekron. So the
5 cities.
The 5 cities that Kevin mentioned. And then So the great stone, which they sat down the ark, lays as a witness of that event to this day.
Yeah, so again, it's this kind of thing where it's like, yeah, and if you go over to Beth Shemesh and you see that great big stone that's in the field there, that's the place where they did this offering. It's still there. You can go look, right? At least at the time of the writing of this historical record here. And then you get this again, it's very weird, right? So what happens when it's there, right, in Beth Shemesh is it says, 70 of them, and the people mourned because the Lord had struck the people with a great blow, right? And so again, this is this strange thing that the people of Israel are not giving the ark the proper respect it deserves, while the Philistines are, right? And so they've sent it back, and you think this is great, right? The people rejoice to see it. The Levites go and they take it off the cart appropriately, right? Knowing they're the ones who are supposed to handle it. They make sacrifices to God, but it is just there somewhere. And apparently, they've put it maybe in Joshua's barn. I don't know. They've got it somewhere housed. And 70 men of the region or town decide, hey, let's go take a peek at the ark, which again is because no one ever gets to see the ark. It's in the Holy of Holies, and they're like, it's not in the Holy of Holies. Maybe we're allowed to look at it, right? Because God didn't say we couldn't go look at it if it wasn't in the Holy of Holies, right? So let's go sneak a peek while we can. And God is having none of that, right? He strikes those men with a plague of some sort. Maybe it's the same tumors that were going around. But the result of that is then the people of Beth Shemesh go, who's able to stand before the Lord? This is a holy God. Whom shall he go, and to whom shall he go up away from us? So they send messengers, sort of like, has happened previously in the other cities, to Kiriath Jearim saying, hey, they've sent the Ark of the Lord, come and take it from us and take it up to you, right? So again, it's very parallel to what was happening in the Philistine cities. People are struck with a plague and they say, get it out of here, kind of a deal. But again, in this case, it's because the people have treated it as a common object, like was the same problem as before.
Yeah, and then you have this unusual thing. Said, okay, we're gonna send it away, and they take it to Kiriath Jearim, and they kept it at a man named Abinadab.
Yeah,
and it's in his house for 20.
Yeah, which is an interesting kind of a thing, right? I don't know if it's just the closest place. My suspicion here is, right, that they called
Shiloh
it Shiloh is burned and gone. They've got no place for the ark. Kiriath Jearim is the likely place where the closest priest is. Abinadab. So they say, hey, Levites, you need to take this. Like, don't leave it in our city. So they do. They take it up to this place, Abinadab, and they consecrate his son Eleazar to have charge over the Ark of the Lord, right? So they say, you are going to be the priest who has charge of the Ark while it is here in our presence. And so it stays there, right? A long time goes by, 20 years go by. And all the house of Israel laments after the Lord, which is an interesting statement. I think it's sort of driving home the point that maybe they're getting what's happening here, right? Look, the Philistines are pressing you because you've not treated the worship of God as you ought to have, right? And yes, part of that was due to the fact that your spiritual leadership was corrupt, right? But it started at the top and it's worked its way down, and that's why you were oppressed. You brought the ark out, not treating it as something holy, treating it as a common object, so I struck you down. You got it back. You didn't treat it appropriately. You thought it was a, sideshow attraction that people could come and check out. So I struck you down. And now they're like, okay, God, we get it. We have it here. We've got someone who's a priest overseeing it. And we're going to lament after you. We're going to call upon you. We're going to see, Lord, what shall we do? What can we do? And I think that becomes clear because verse 3 then says, Samuel comes back on the scene, right? Yep. Samuel said to all the house of Israel, if you are truly returning to the Lord with all your heart, then put away the foreign gods and the Asherah from around you and direct your heart to the Lord and serve him, and he will deliver you out of the hands of the Philistines, right? So now we're getting more picture here, right? That But they have been oppressed because of these things.
So anytime I see like little synopses, such as the ark was there for 20 years.
Yeah.
That is, so when it's easy for us to read that as a chronological timeline. Okay, so now 20 years have passed and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
next
no,
thing
no,
is
no.
happening. No, that's not how, I don't believe that's how
No,
it should
no.
be understood. It's just saying that's where the ark is going to be for the 20 years after that.
Yeah, and this stuff is happening in this window here now, right?
Yes,
Like, yeah.
right.
No, this is,
So,
it was up there and they're calling after the Lord.
yep,
And then Samuel immediately says, hey, if you want to fix this, here's what we
yeah,
do. And
exactly. So
20 years is going by while this is all going on. And it's
yeah, so it's
up
not
there.
like they lamented for 20 years.
No, no,
and
no.
then Samuel says, "Okay, if you're really
Let's get this figured out." Yeah.
right." So no, I think that's Samuel is immediately going to work, seeing that there is a potential change of heart, and he preaches to him. He tells him, "Hey,
Yeah.
here's the deal. If you're serious about serving the Lord, and you should be, put away all the things between you and God."
Right. Which, again, is not rocket science. This is what was prescribed to them when they were going into the land, right? We had this whole ceremony of this hill and that hill and the curses and the blessings. And God told them, this is what's going to happen. And if you will return and serve me, then I will bless you. Right. And so
Yep.
it's Samuel being like, guys, this is obvious, right? Our problem is we've got all these idols that we're serving, put them away and serve God only, and God will bless us as He has promised in His covenant with us.
Absolutely. Well, I think there's some application there for us. Like sometimes it does take for people to hit kind of a low point in life to when they're finally sincere and honest enough with themselves that they need help. Sometimes people need help. They search for answers all over the place. But if they find them seeking after the Lord, that requires some sacrifice. When Paul is teaching the Christians how to be Christians, how to live as a Christian, it's a process. It's not an overnight instant fix. Jesus is not an instant fix, miraculously correcting all of the errors and craziness in your life. He tells us we have to put away all of the works of darkness, and like Colossians 3, one of my favorite go-to sections. Put away all these evil things, the blasphemy and the filthy language out of your mouth and all of the sin and but then he says, yeah, you got to empty yourself from all that. Put that old man of sin to death, and then take on this new life in Christ and be like Jesus, and putting on all the things that Jesus represents, love and goodness and patience and kindness and meekness and humility and selflessness and treating others with respect and kindness and all these things. And so it's the same process that Samuel is basically instructing these people here. You have to put away all of the things that are distracting you from serving God.
Yeah.
And serve him with all your heart. Because God has always wanted the heart of people. And despite all of the instructions for physical worship that he had in this old covenant that they're living under, he always wanted their heart. And that's what I see Samuel calling them to.
Yeah. And, the result of this is going to be pretty immediate, at least in the text, right? They agree to his statement. He says, everyone gather here at Mizpah. We're going to do these things, right? They pour it out. They fast. They do all this stuff. They confess their sin, right? And the result of that is the Philistines hear that they're gathered there, right? So they kind of come up there to Mizpah. And Samuel says, listen, continue to cry out to God. Don't go get the box. Right? Don't continue you stay here on your knees crying out to the Lord, and he will deliver us from the hand of the Philistines. And they offer sacrifices. They offer these burnt offerings. Like, this is what they keep doing, even as the Philistines are saying, let's close into attack. We've defeated them. We've defeated them. We've defeated them. And so God then fights for them in this case, right?
Yeah.
Not with the ark. He thunders against them. He drives them. He droves and confuses them. He defeats them like solely, right? And then the men of Israel chase after them and strike them down and have this great deliverance. And then we get this story that I really like here because it's part of a really good song that we sing. that then Samuel took a stone and he sets it up there in that place and he calls its name Ebenezer, right? Which means the rock of help or the stone of help.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, because to this far the Lord has helped us, right? He drove off the people this far from us, and it's going to be a memorial there, right? And it says, from that day forward, the hand of the Lord is against the Philistines all the days of Samuel, right? The cities that they had taken from Israel are restored to them. There was peace between Israel and the Amorites. It's the same judge story we've had over and over again, right? The
Right.
people repent, God delivers them. There is peace in the days of that judge. Things are good, right? And we get a little bit there of how Samuel does that. Samuel judged all the days of life. He goes on a circuit. Bethel, Gilgal, Mizpah. He goes around and kind of judges and hears cases and moves throughout the region, and then goes back to Ramah because that's where his home is. And he just kind of goes on this circuit, maybe 3 months at a time, whatever. And he judges Israel, builds an altar to the Lord. Things are good, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of a good ending there to the bad story.
Absolutely. And that pretty much comes to a really good breaking point for us, where we see this spiritual revitalization of
Yeah.
Israel, with Samuel being the glue, the anchor that's
Mhm.
keeping the people focused on the Lord, and the people listening, which is obviously the solution. Is the equation is they have to be together, right? You have to have the
Yeah.
preaching and you have to have the following. And when it all works together, then there's righteousness in the land.
Yeah.
Um,
So just to close up there and close the loop,
yeah.
I had told you I'd find those places for you.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah chapter 7, basically 8 through 15, is where Jeremiah is going to be prophesying against the people of the land, saying, go take a look at Shiloh, right? Don't think this temple's going to save you. It will get repeated in Jeremiah 26. So in Jeremiah 26, he will make that same prophecy in the first 5 verses or 6 verses. I will make this house like Shiloh. I'll make the city a curse for all the nations of the earth. And in fact, the people there who aren't following God, but the priests, they're like, hey, stop saying this is going to be like Shiloh, right? We're going to kill you because of this, right? And so they're telling him, stop giving this prophecy that Jerusalem will become like Shiloh. And then the other place that you can kind of read about it, again, just sort of as an aside, is in Psalm 78. And if you press down towards, it's again, you get this sort of history lesson like you do in some of the Psalms, right? He did this, they were like in the wilderness, he drove the people out, blah, 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 blah. And then for 56, they tested and rebelled against God. They acted treacherously. They provoked him to anger with their high places. 59, when God heard this, he was full of wrath. He utterly rejected Israel. Verse 60, he forsook his dwelling at Shiloh and the tent where he dwelt among mankind, and he delivered his power to captivity and his glory to the hand of the foe. Right. And so, again, you get this sort of reference in the psalm there that's written that kind of is telling the history that the people didn't follow God, and he took down Shiloh and delivered it to the hands of the enemies. And that's where his tabernacle had been and everything. So, yeah, you kind of get this picture from those places that, oh, it wasn't just they stopped, they came to Shiloh and burned the place down, right, afterwards.
That is good stuff, and that's why we need to read the whole Bible. It's not all the narrative isn't always
No.
included in everything, and so
Yeah, it's not intended to be a full history of everything that
No.
occurred and happened, right? It's telling the story of Samuel and the transition from judges to kings. Yeah.
Well, that also explains why Shiloh's not really mentioned anymore.
After this, no, yeah,
Right.
I mean it's
So-
listed as desolate, and it was a big place. It was the central place of worship, effectively, until you get to Jerusalem.
Okay.
At the time, so.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for filling in those blanks for me, Kevin. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. That helps me to fill in the gaps of my own knowledge. We hope this has been beneficial to you all. Then we can learn about just reflect on the things in our own lives. That are we relying on the symbolism of religion sometimes too much?
Yeah.
Are there things like the people of Israel had between them and God? Are there any idols that we have that we're holding on to? Whether it's the idol of, capitalism, or, the American dream, or there's a lot of things that are distracting us in this world that could be considered to be an idol, even though we may not have a graven image that we
Right.
bow down to. if it's something that is pulling us away from giving our heart completely to the Lord, I would call that idolatry.
Yeah, and it is in this case, right? What's interesting is like the Ark of the Covenant had become the idol, right?
Yeah.
It will save us.
Hmm.
If we bring it
That's a
out,
good point.
God must fight for us,
Yeah.
right? Instead of, no, God is who we worship. It's not the box that's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. I mean, I think people sometimes in our zeal for being pro America, that can also become a little bit of an idol.
Yeah,
You know?
whatever we think is going to save us besides God, right,
Yeah.
is an idol.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So no idolatry, people, and just look for Jesus and go out there and just keep on keeping on. So, God bless y'all. We will see you next time.